All right, welcome back, everyone. Today's explainer is basically your official mission briefing for one of the absolute most sought-after certifications in the entire cloud ecosystem. I'm talking about the Microsoft Azure Administrator Associate, or as you probably know it, the AZ-104. So if you're gearing up to step into the role of a future Azure administrator, or maybe you're just looking to really solidify your existing cloud expertise, you are in exactly the right place. We are going to completely decode the syllabus, break down exactly what you need to know, and hand you the strategic blueprint to conquer this exam.
So here is our game plan for today. We've got 1. Identity and governance, 2. Storage, 3. Compute, 4. Virtual networking, 5. Monitoring and maintenance, and finally 6. Study strategies. Okay, before we even touch the tech, we have to talk about your target score, 700. That right there is the magic number you need to hit to pass the AZ-104 and earn your certification. It's a strict pass or fail threshold, and every single objective domain we cover today is going to contribute a very specific percentage to help you cross that 700-point finish line. Now, to actually get there, you've got to be super comfortable acting as an administrator. Azure gives you 3 primary administration tools to manage your environment, and you will be tested on your ability to use all of them. We're talking the Azure portal, the Azure command line interface, which we just call the CLI, and Azure PowerShell. The exam is absolutely going to expect you to know which of these tools is best suited for different specific scenarios. When you first jump into the primary interface, the Azure portal GUI, it looks great, right? It's awesome for locating resources quickly, and it's got these incredibly helpful wizards and toolkits to guide you through your tasks. But, and this is a big but, the exam knows you can't use the portal efficiently for massive repetitive tasks. Like, imagine deploying 12 virtual machines at once by clicking through a menu. No way. For that kind of heavy lifting, you'll need to rely on the CLI or PowerShell to automate processes and eliminate human error. Notice how the exam fundamentally prioritizes your study time. It's like a giant puzzle, and identity and governance, right alongside deploying and managing compute resources, are your absolute heaviest hitters. Each of those makes up to 25% of your exam. So if you're trying to triage your study sessions and figure out where to start, these are the 2 pillars you absolutely must build your foundation on first. All right, diving right into Section 1, Identity and Governance. This whole domain pretty much orbits around Microsoft Entra ID. I mean, you absolutely have to know this service inside and out. The exam is going to test you on creating and managing users in groups, configuring self-service password reset, and even handling external guest users. Crucially, though, you've got to know how to manage access to Azure resources by assigning built-in Azure roles. Think about it. Do you know the exact specific difference between an owner and a contributor? You'll need to interpret those access assignments across all different scopes, from the top-level subscription all the way down to individual resources. Now, beyond just the identity piece, we've got governance. You'll be tested on implementing Azure policy to enforce your organization's standards, and configuring resource locks, which are literally lifesavers for preventing the accidental deletion of your critical infrastructure. But let me tell you, the exam absolutely loves testing you on Azure tags. These are logical name and value pairs you apply to your resources. Why are they such a big deal? Because they let you categorize resources across different groups, which is absolutely essential if you want to view consolidated billing or automate your deployments. Moving right along to Section 2, Storage. Storage in Azure is massive, but for this exam, you really need to zero in on a couple of key comparisons. Like, you have to know exactly when to configure Azure Blob Storage, which is perfect for dumping massive amounts of unstructured object data into containers, versus when you'd want to spin up Azure Files, which acts way more like a traditional cloud file share with identity-based access. And of course, you'll need to master securing all this data. That means creating shared access signature or SAS tokens, figuring out your storage account redundancy, and implementing data protection features like soft delete and lifecycle management. Actually, think of lifecycle management as your own personal automated janitor. It seamlessly moves older, less access data to cheaper storage tiers without you ever having to lift a finger. Next up is Section 3, Compute. Compute is a huge chunk of the test, and it's heavily focused on virtual machines. But honestly, it goes way beyond just clicking Create in the portal. You're going to need to execute very specific VM configurations. We're talking automating deployments using ARM templates or bicep files. You need to know how to configure encryption right at the host level, manage VM sizes and their underlying disks, and ensure high availability.
That means knowing how to deploy to availability zones or configure virtual machine scale sets. You need to know exactly how to ensure your application stays online, even if an entire Azure data center suddenly experiences an outage. But hey, compute isn't just VMs anymore, right? Containers are a huge, huge part of the AZ-104. You really must be able to contrast and provision containers properly. For instance, knowing that Azure container instances are for when you want to provision isolated containers really rapidly without managing servers at all, whereas Azure Container Apps are designed for provisioning and scaling full-blown serverless container microservices. Oh, and throw Azure App Services in the mix too. You'll definitely need to know how to configure scaling, deployment slots, and custom DNS for your web apps. All right, let's hit section 4, virtual networking. The absolute crucial point here is how you securely connect and route your environment. This means you have to be able to provision virtual networks and carve them up into subnets. You're going to need to understand VNet peering to actually connect those networks together. And since security is paramount, evaluating effective security rules in network security groups, or NSGs, is basically a guaranteed topic on the test. And let's definitely not forget Azure Bastion. You'll be tested on how to securely RDP or SSH into your VMs directly from the portal without ever exposing them to the public internet. It is a massive security upgrade over traditional jump boxes, for sure.
Down to the home stretch with Section 5, monitoring and maintenance.
Okay, so once your infrastructure is actually built, you're tasked with keeping the lights on. You'll be using Azure Monitor a ton to interpret metrics and run log queries just to figure out what's going wrong when things break. You'll also need to set up alert rules that trigger action groups so your system automatically responds to issues. And for disaster recovery, because things will go wrong, you absolutely must know how to create recovery services vaults, configure backup policies, and set up Azure Site Recovery to perform clean failovers to a secondary region if a catastrophe strikes. And finally, Section 6, study strategies. Here is the reality of the AZ-104, folks. Because it heavily tests practical, hands-on application, just reading the documentation isn't going to cut it. You have to build real muscle memory. Luckily, there are excellent tools out there for this. Wiz Labs offers free tests and over 750 hands-on labs that are specifically tailored to Azure. Utilizing cloud sandbox environments is a total game changer because it allows you to build and break things without racking up a massive personal credit card bill. If you combine these interactive labs with Microsoft Learn's self-paced paths and run through the official exam sandbox to get a feel for the testing interface, you're going to be in amazing shape. So, with the exam weights totally decoded, all the domains mapped out, and your study tool belt fully equipped, the only question left for you is this. Are you ready? Are you ready to jump into a sandbox environment, start configuring networks, spinning up containers, and really building your Azure expertise today? The cloud is waiting for you. Get in there, start building, and go earn that 700.